And we're rolling in 3, 2, 1. Today on the Meincke Show podcast, we have with us Brent Ballash. Brent is the owner of Bold Electric, and he's going to be our next speaker at the Okotoks Business Association, putting on a workshop. Brent, what's the workshop going to be about?
I'd like to bring in mindfulness into business as far as discussing how that works and how it can improve business function, your own well-being within the stresses and different polarities of business.
Can you give me an example of mindfulness and maybe a description?
A description would be states of no mind, let's call it, where in the hectic aspects of business, if you were able to take some time and quiet your mind, not so much like a deep meditation, but just allowing thoughts to leave so you have some space to breathe, essentially.
What is the relevance of that in business? Like there's, and first of all, I'm a believer. I understand, as you probably don't know, I'm a combat veteran, and I've been going to PTSD therapy for 2 years.
Wow.
And a big part of that, overcoming that, is mindfulness. But it's so much more. It really seems to add to the life. Increases quality of life if you learn to be mindful.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Tell me how this impacts a business owner running their business if they can learn to be more mindful.
Well, in my own experience, business has its, like I said, polarities where you got some great days and you got some stressful days. Mm-hmm. Finances play such a role in all of our lives, and when finances are tight, especially in a market like we're in, stress runs high. And as we all know or have heard, stress is a killer. And why stress is a killer, just one of the aspects, is our blood becomes highly toxic through acidity because we're not oxygenating enough, because when we're stressed, we breathe from our chest, not from our belly. So getting a chance to be mindful, quiet the mind, and deeply breathe so you have the ability to oxygenate your blood, drop stress levels, and allows you to be more cognitive about what you're dealing with, whether it's financial stresses, timelines, whatever the stressor is in business. It'll give you a clearer picture of how you can move forward and more deeper understanding of what you're dealing with, as opposed to just the fight or flight aspect.
Okay, so it affects the decision-making process is what I'm hearing?
Yes, 100%.
The decision-making process, and what about just quality of life as a business owner?
Well, just being more peaceful and mindful is a huge quality of life enhancer, for sure. Just because living in a stressful state is just no fun at all.
The mind, body, spirit part of life. The people talk about work-life balance, but really work is life. I mean, that's where we spend a good chunk of our existence.
Yeah, it's more integration than balance, I think.
I think that's a good way of putting it. When did you start getting into this way of thinking, the spiritual side of things, the idea of energy and heart? I mean, that is something that tends not to be in the business world. But is that something that you've always had to some degree, or was there? What was the point where you shifted towards this type of thinking?
I would say I've always been ethereal, thinking on from an aspect of energy and spirit. It just went through different stages. Where I was a young kid, I grew up with atheist parents, but I had a Baptist sister and Christian friends, so I kind of bounced and moved through the more religious path, and then spent a time away. But I've always had a direct connection with what I would call my creator, our creator, however you want to, whatever label you want to put to that. But I've always had a direct connection and a constant dialogue with that higher aspect, so to speak. And I went through a divorce back in just before 2000, and kind of really had a yearning to return to more meaning from that perspective. Like I said, I've always had a constant dialogue But in 2000, I started to really search for that and started to move through different literature about, spirituality, about, those questions of why are we here, who are we, and everything. So for about the last 18 years, I've been on a pretty strong path of trying to connect. And that's fluctuated because I've always been in business for myself. So that has its ability to pull you in and out of that. But the last few years, I've really been trying to delve deeper into aspects of spirituality and energy work and breath work.
As a manager of people, somebody with staff, how does it affect your interactions with staff?
Well, I think when they first come on with my team, they think I'm pretty weird, but they tend to warm to me fairly quickly because I'm very heart-centered. I like to feel I'm a very honest and open person, so that draws people in pretty quick. And I've always had an intrinsic ability to connect with people. I really love human beings. I think that we're beautiful from the inside out. It's just that we sometimes lose sight of that, so we choose differently. So people who seem to be a little more negative, they usually only are doing that because it's like jumping into a river. When you're swimming upstream, it's a lot harder than going with the flow. And unfortunately, the flow is a negative polarity right now. Most people see life and feel from a negative polarity. That's my perspective, of course.
What's the saying? The only thing to fear is fear itself. And if you really go deep on that, fear is the enemy. It's the lowest vibration.
Absolutely.
It's not hate, it's fear.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's the opposite of love.
It's exactly. Most people don't realize that.
Mm-hmm.
They think hate is the opposite of love. No. Mm-hmm. It's fear.
And the beautiful thing about fear is it gives us a chance to go the other direction. If we didn't have a dark room, we couldn't be a bright light in it, right? So fear is a necessary thing in a duality which we live in, right? We have both polarities, and we get to move towards one or the other. I myself I'm vigilant about trying to move in the one direction, but I also have to integrate the lower vibratorial parts of myself so that way I can heal it, because we're all coming from places of scars, no different than yourself. Being on the battlefield, you've seen the best and the worst of humanity, I'm sure. So going through that post-traumatic distress syndrome, is that right?
Close enough.
Okay, yeah, you know what I'm saying? So going through that, it's memories of regressed experiences. Is that what it would be?
Partially.
PTSD
is it's an injury. That's why they should really change the name from post-traumatic stress disorder to injury. Turn the D into an I.
Okay. It's a real thing, that's for sure.
Some of the new nomenclature, they're calling it an OSI, operational stress injury. But that's the military version of it, and you absolutely don't have to be a soldier to be suffering from it by any stretch. It just that is such a trauma-rich environment that it's incredibly common. Yeah. But it's an injury, and it's like you take a blank sheet of paper, you wrinkle it all up. It doesn't matter how smooth you get it, you can still see the wrinkles, right? Like it never goes back. There's always signs of it.
Yeah.
And it's a struggle for the rest of your life. It improves, it gets better, but it's a struggle, and it impacts your relationships. It impacts your employability. But getting back to environment and negative people, something twigged on me earlier on in what you were saying. In your hiring practices, how intuitive is your hiring practices for onboarding? Because I'm guessing where I'm going with this is that you're looking for the negative Nelly, the oh poor me, the
victim,
the victim, exactly, so that you can say sorry.
I think that's evolving all the time for me, trusting in my own intuitive sense. And I also bring in the two gals in my office on a secondary interview. So I always do a primary with myself. I get a sense of that potential hire, and then I do a secondary interview, and I bring in the two ladies that work with me at the office. So we have a bit of a panel. So that creates a stressor for the individual, so we can see what they're like under that little bit of stress. And I I do try to get a good sense, and I use their female intuition, which women are definitely a little bit more in tune with their intuitive abilities than men generally. So I try to really listen to mine. I'm trying to get better at that all the time. I've definitely in the past ignored it, but when I review and I look back, I recall directly ignoring my intuitive ability. So that builds trust a little quicker. So I do look for that victimized mentality through some questions, and try to weed that out for sure.
Are you almost in a life coach role with some of your staff? Does that come out where you're trying to?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, and it's because I'm very in tune with emotion. I would safely describe myself as an intuitive empath. I have empathic abilities with people. Because I feel. I have sometimes an overbearing sense of feeling, and I can feel how people are feeling. So when I have a staff member that's bothered or they're upset, I don't keep it to business. I move into it on a personal level because I want to make sure that they're feeling okay. So a lot of the times I'm using maybe some spiritual advice in a practical application in order to try to help, because everybody is hurting in one degree or another. It's just how they move through that process. So I try to do everything I can with my staff and everybody around me to be really sensitive to how they feel and to help draw out what's going on. So that way, because a lot of times to discuss issues that people are having, it allows them to purge it. Because when we bury emotion, it'll come out one way or another. Everything starts in the ethereal through the spiritual and ends in the physical. So if they're dealing with something physical, whether it's an illness or an emotional, it's usually started in the spiritual and they just didn't listen. So if I can help them from that perspective a little bit, not that I'm any guru on it or anything, but just from my own perspective, my own intuition and my own experiences, if I can help them in any way, I certainly try.
Now, I can see the upside of getting that close with your staff and intimate, really. I can also see the potential downside.
It's problematic.
In leadership in general, you tend to keep people at arm's length because you might have to fire them one day, or jack them up. So that's a basic leadership principle. And have you found conflicts with that?
Yeah, definitely. It's been a challenge for me for a long time. But I want to be a business owner and I want to be a leader, but I also want to connect with people. So it's a fine line that I do the best I can to walk. And if I got to let people go because they're not a right fit, I just do it in the most humane and loving way I can. And I allow them to experience it in their own way. I can't tell them how to feel. I just make sure that I come from the most honest place I can, the most humane way I can, and just let them know why, and that I'm there for them in any other way they need. But unless they need to be directly fired for anything that deserves it. But I really haven't had anybody that's come to that degree
with a terminable offense.
Yeah, and no employee theft or anything else. Just usually they're just not the right fit, and I'm looking for an A team, and I have to protect my existing employees that work really hard. So I can only keep people that are assisting and helping the team, not hindering and drawing down. Right.
So we haven't discussed in advance. We were just talking this morning at the Okotoks Business Association about what a workshop might look like, some of the content. So if you don't know, that's fine, because it's a bit early. But the second Thursday of February at 62 Fisher Place, Miles Display and Design, second floor. We will be having our next Okotoks Business Association event. You're going to be our host. And what can a business owner expect if they wisely choose to show up?
Well, I think, first of all, they're going to want to come with an open heart, because in a setting like this, I would really hope that people set aside predetermined ideas and ego, because both of those can hinder an experience of trying to be mindful and honor the other aspects of yourself. Because if we think that we're this organic being walking around as just a human, physical only, this type of workshop will lend itself in a completely different perspective, right? I want to address more of the intuitive, spiritual part of the person, because it's to integrate that will assist on all levels of being a human, essentially.
Now, the dress code isn't going to be toga, is it?
Well, come as you are. No, dress. Come fully dressed.
I'm pretty
no,
sure. I'm pretty sure I'd rock a toga.
Yeah, I think so. You've probably been to a couple toga parties. Next time you go to one, let me know. This sounds like a lot of fun.
We're in.
No, just how we were dressed today would be fine. It's just going to be a light introduction to some breath work and understanding, or trying to understand. And we're going to do this collaborative. Again, I'm not up there telling everybody how to do it. I'm just figuring it out as I go too. But I would just like to address that aspect of us and integrating it with business.
For the people that are like, I don't know, sounds kind of hippy dippy to me. What would you say to them? Is it that okay? It's just not your time then, or?
Yeah, I think that you want to come with an open mind and an open heart, and if that's something that you just don't feel drawn to, you're right. It's probably not your time. I mean, I'm going to assist in any way I can if you do, but energy is more powerful than most people will give credit to. If you come in closed off, that will affect an open-hearted atmosphere. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. So I would want people just to come wanting to experience something different if they're not if they haven't spent any time in this from this perspective of trying to understand the larger parts of who we are.
Do you have an idea? Because you were saying it's going to be interactive. So do you have an idea, or should it be a surprise about any particular exercises or?
No, not so much. Again, it's something that I'm going to have to sit down because it just organically came together today, and we're here talking about it. So I'm really excited about it, but it's something I have to put something together so it flows. But really, it's just going to be about understanding the importance of breath. I'll bring some literature or a slideshow. I'm not sure. I'm going to lean on you a little bit because you said you'd help out with that. So I'll get you to help me build that workshop a bit, so that way it brings value. I want to make sure everybody feel that they walk away with something. That's for sure. So I'm going to bring some documentation that supports these theories on a scientific level, so that way it's not just all hairy-fairy, like you said, but there's
hippy dippy, I think.
Yeah, hippy dippy. That's right, hippy dippy.
Hippy
I'm going to use that
hairy
one.
fairy.
Hairy fairy, hippy dippy. So, I've spent a lot of time researching and looking into some great thought leaders on this planet. Some people who are on leading edge on cellular biology, neuroscience, deep spirituality, who are on a fundamental level proving that not only does thought have an impact on your reality, on how that actually works, and how breath work, like Wim Hof, if you've heard of Wim Hof. So
I had his app and then my phone crashed. So
yeah,
I got to get his app again. It cost me $6.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, he's great, and he's proven some unprecedented human achievements through breath work. Not only climbing Everest in a pair of sandals and a pair of shorts, no oxygen. Swimming for I can't remember how many meters underwater under an iceberg. He's controls his autonomic system through breath work.
For anybody that wants to look him up, Wim Hof, W-I-M is his first name, H-O-F is his last name. And there's even a video of this nut in a tub, like in a glass tub, so you can see it, of ice water. Mm-hmm. He was there for an hour.
Yeah.
And he's just like, doo-doo.
Yeah, and he controls in his actually skin. His skin does not get cold. And he does that through conscious breathwork control. Like he controls his heating system in his body through breathwork. And he is not an anomaly. He is training people on how to do this. I'm actually on the 19th, I'm going to a workshop in Red Deer, a Wim Hof workshop in Red Deer.
Really?
To learn. I've been doing, hot, cold showers in the morning and working with the breathwork. And it's, I'm still elementary in it, but just working hard on it, trying to...
We should talk about that. It would be interesting to start a Wim Hof group in Okotoks.
Really would, yeah, for sure.
And that would be a really, really interesting thing.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is if we project ourselves, if you look at accelerated growth, not just with AI, but just on human understanding. In 10 years' time, things are going to be so different, not just in the health and educational systems, but we're going to realize intrinsically, based on study and information that we all get, how we are going to be in control of our reality and our own health, and this stuff it's accelerating quickly. People are waking up.
There's a shift that's happening.
There is
right
a
now.
massive shift that's happening right now.
I call it the Great Awakening.
Yes, yeah, that's a good analogy for it, for sure.
It's really what it feels like. And at the Okotoks Business Association event today, with the panel discussion, one of the most striking things that came up is the importance of authenticity. In advertising, there's something called banner blindness, where you don't even see, you just unconsciously tune out all these advertising banners on Facebook or wherever. You just don't even see them. You don't notice them. And that's something that's scientifically proven with eye mapping and whatnot. And I think part of it is we're just all marketed out, because it's a nonstop onslaught. It's a constant attack on our senses. Marketing. People vying to get your attention. And I think that collectively our consciousness has said enough. Enough.
People are tired.
People are tired. It's too much. And that's why it's such a shock when somebody actually knocks on your door, other than a Jehovah's Witness or something. Not to slap them. I've actually got a lot of respect for anybody that'll go around door knocking. It's a tough gig.
It is, yeah.
But when you actually get face to face with somebody, it's almost like a surprise. Like, oh, a human. Kind of like in the Disney or Pixar movie WALL-E.
Yeah, that's right.
All of a sudden, all their electronics go down, and they're like, oh.
Hey,
there's this whole world around me.
I
was here the whole time, and it's like, damn, you're fat. You got to do something about that.
Yeah.
And
it's an interesting analogy.
Yeah,
good old Disney. Always telling us stuff that we need to know.
Well, it's true.
Subliminally, yeah.
Well, we're definitely going the direction of WALL-E, of that world, and I think instead of it going that far, I think we're evolving a little bit ahead of that, so that doesn't happen. Because if we don't have an evolution right now, it's going to be WALL-E.
Yeah. And people are realizing that. I mean, technological advancements like we're seeing today without spiritual integration and progression is dangerous. We have to control our devices. Our devices can't control us. Well, but they do. That's the problem, right? So I think when we get back to things like we're talking about breath work, meditation, these are the tools to assist our humanity to realize that that's the most important thing. And our devices and social media and all this outside noise, it has to take a back seat, because this is the stuff that we talked about today at the Business Association meeting. It's the human connection. It's the heart. We have to, it's a reason why babies, they will die if they are not held and nurtured at a very young age. Human beings are built to connect. We need to connect, not just, not through devices, but through our magnetic, energetic fields. That's how we're built.
So, final question.
Okay.
And then we'll end this segment. We'll do this again, Brent. And I knew that we would.
Yeah.
I knew that we would.
It's been great. I appreciate it.
Oh God, it's great. But you being an empathetic fella and being very discerning about the environment that you choose, so that you're not leeching negative energy from anybody, that sort of thing. You've been at the Okotoks Business Association events. There's no membership. There's no penalty if you don't have attendance.
We've both been part of the BNI world.
That's exactly right. It's just if we've earned your attendance, you show. And so for yourself, why do you keep coming back? Like, what is it about that environment where you say, "Yep, that's worth my time"? Why?
I would say that first and foremost, it's the people there. It's the people that you've attracted to the association. I think are all of great quality. They're all caring people who really They love being business owners, and they love to interact with one another and feed off one another, which I really appreciate. And second, I just love being part of the Okotoks business community. I really love Okotoks. My family, we're very happy here in Okotoks, and being connected to the business community is a really important aspect for me. And just how Patty has opened up her doors to at Miles Display there to the association. It's just such a great venue to be at too. It's
beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It's a beautiful place to be. Yeah, and those are probably a couple of the reasons why I really like it.
And mostly because you like me.
Yeah, it's you, buddy. It's you. You keep me coming back. No, you are a great presenter, though. We appreciate it. Yeah, everybody does appreciate you.
Is there anything that you've actually taken as a tool? Because they're usually workshops, and we usually have information that is good for most business owners in general. Have you taken any tools and actually applied them so far?
Yes, not a great deal, to be perfectly honest.
Well, you've only been there a few times.
Yeah, that's right. But the one gentleman, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, but he was the online presence, keeping an online presence, and he spoke about the Air
Watts.
Canada. Paul Watts, yeah. Pardon me.
He's amazing.
Yes,
amazing,
he is.
Man.
He's a great speaker. He held everybody's attention, and he brought great value to that meeting. And I took some of the aspects of that and implemented it.
And just a shout out for Paul Watts. He's the owner of Sales Reinvented. He has a phenomenal sales podcast called the Sales Reinvented Podcast that I can highly recommend. And in the world of business-to-business sales training, he is world-class. Mm-hmm. And I can recommend him to anyone by all means, as I can recommend you easily based on character.
Thank you so much.
Brent, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to doing more episodes with you.
Yeah, me too.
And covering different topics. But in the meantime, please click subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you are watching this on one of the other podcast platforms, or listening to this rather on one of the other podcast platforms, whether it be Anchor.fm, iTunes, Stitcher, or any of the others, we're on about 12 different platforms. Please, 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 please be a nice person and click subscribe. Or not. I'll still like you anyway, and that's all right.
I'm subscribing.
There we go. And please provide your feedback as well about the type of shows you'd like to see. For other members of the Okotoks business community, this podcast is largely for you. So come on. We'll have a nice chat and use it for your promotion of your business. Thank you, Brent. I appreciate you being here, pal.
Thank you. I appreciate being here too.
Good to see you as always.
Yeah, you too, man.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Meincke Show podcast. The Meincke Show podcast. Doodle-doo. I'm going to actually get that produced, and then I'm going to have that as part of the show.
Nice.